Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Wrestling with the Paranormal. I am the Enlightened One.
And remember, keep on wrestling with the paranormal.
Woo!
Wow, that was a good episode.
Craig, what are you doing?
Man, I think we nailed that episode.
Craig, what's going on here?
Wait, you should stop recording because we just finished the episode. Why is he
Craig,
still recording?
what happened?
Wait, you mean we didn't just finish the episode?
I didn't. What happened?
I think I just slipped into the future, man. I just had a time slip.
Keeps on slipping.
Time into the future.
Time keeps on slipping into
All
the
right,
future.
let's get serious.
Wait a second. It is daylight savings time, and time slipped back a bit. It didn't slip into the future, but it slipped back.
Slipped forward, and you're sitting with Craig DeGray from an hour in the future.
Did you forget to change your name again?
It still says Craig the Snub Nose Monkey.
Did you forget to change it? You did forget to change your time on your clock, and you forget to change your name. You're still the Snub Nose Monkey.
I was all mixed up today.
No, he's still Craig the Gray. This is a prior episode. He didn't fix it. I think you can change it, can't you?
I think I gotta change it before I go into this show. Edit name. Let's see. Can I do this live on air?
Actually, I can even change your name. Look at this.
No. Check this out. I'm doing it. I got it.
Okay.
Boom.
I'll give you authority over your own name. Yeah. I was going to mess with you. I could even call you weird things on there and mess with you.
leave a message in the comments if it just changed, because I'm pretty sure it
did change. So today we're talking about time slips, and Craig, how would you describe a time slip? What is a time slip?
I'm glad you asked. A time slip is when a human being or a group of human beings finds themselves either in the past for some unknown reason. And this can be anywhere from, a few hours in the past, or even decades or centuries in the past, or somehow they travel to the future.
Or something from the past comes into the future.
Whoa.
Right? That as well.
So that is what's called a time slip. It's a paranormal event.
And just looking, I didn't think we'd find so much, but it's actually huge and very, very prevalent.
Yeah, they're kind of all over the place. Potentially endless stories of people time slipping.
So we're going to start off our story. So let me see where we are here.
Let's do a big one. Do a big one.
A big story.
Do a big story.
A big story. So in the summer of 1911, the Zanetti Company, they were starting a locomotive project, and they were going from Rome to Milan, and they invited a bunch of investors and just different dignitaries and other employees were on the joint plane. There was about 106 people on this train. Then there was three separate compartments, and then the caboose, right? Three separate, what are they called? Carriages? Is that what they're called?
Carriage, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. And so they were going along, and they were going along the mountain. They started climbing up the Lombardy mountain, and
chugging along.
I think I can. And then so this weird white sort of mist starts forming around the area of the train, on the outside of the train. And it's pretty much it's now inside the train eventually, where no one can see anything. And one of the guys, he looks outside of the train, and they're approaching a tunnel. And the tunnel, for some reason, is kind of like almost like maybe even sucking in the train with this weird vortex shit. And it's got this mist coming from the tunnel, and everyone just starts freaking out, and they're like seeing the mist come out of the tunnel coming at the train, and it's just filling the train. And so everyone's trying to get out and jump out of the train, but only 2 manage to escape off the train.
Well,
And the train goes into the tunnel and doesn't come out on the other side. It just disappears.
what?
And
Where
people are
did it go?
freaking out. They don't know what to do. And there's a cover up. They do a big search and try to figure, but the company covers it up, and it becomes a bit of a legend and a ghost story until 40 years. Okay, so the World War II, there's some bombing on the tunnels, and they become structurally unsafe, and so they decide to close up those tunnels. And so now whatever the vortex or whatever it was that they went through is gone. And so 40 years later, in 2,000 miles away, where is it? It is in
Sevastopol?
It's in this weird town in the Ukraine. I think
Sevastopol.
Sevastopol. Yeah. Anyways, it's in the Ukraine. This guy sees this old train, and it looks exactly like the Zanetti, and it starts going along, and it goes right through the barriers, and it even keeps going off the track, and isn't even on the track anymore. It just keeps going, and
So it's like a ghost train.
yeah, almost. And it shows up again many times in the area. And what's the next place it shows up in? Something with a V.
I didn't get all the other places.
Poltova. Anyways, it's in Ukraine. It shows up in the Ukraine in another place. And even up till like the 1991, it's showing up in this area. And it leads people to look into the possibilities of this train in other eras and times. And they found out that it was in the Dark Ages, this train had showed up to a bunch of monks.
Whoa.
And they wrote that they saw a beast with 3 similar beasts behind it, and smoke coming out of its nostrils.
A mechanical beast.
Yeah. And
so the train's going forward and backwards through time.
Yeah. And it's the strangest thing. And they found some people in Mexico that said they came on a train from Italy, and they ended up in the insane asylum because it just seems so preposterous. We went on a train ride from Italy to Mexico. We got here, and they didn't have any documentation, but they were all of Italian descent.
That was in 1845.
Yeah,
60 years before the train even.
Yeah, so they went back in the past in that instance as well.
That's insane. Wow.
So that is the first train. I think you got a plane episode, a plane story, trains, planes, and
what if one of the Italians who ended up in Mexico in 1845 in an insane asylum, but then he gets out and then he marries a Mexican and they have a kid, and the kid travels to Italy, and then the kid goes on the train.
And then he ends up back in Mexico. And he's one of the insane of them. Oh, man.
It'd be a time loop. It'd be a total time loop.
Yeah, that's how a time loop starts.
I got a story about a plane.
That would be a good movie, actually.
That would be it.
I'd watch that.
Story, it would make a good movie. That's true. Is there time slip in movies? There should be.
Yeah, we should make one.
We should make one. Time keeps on slipping.
Into the future.
Okay, let's go
See, we
back.
can get away with this because we're singing it. We're not playing
It's
their
a
song.
cover song.
Yes, we're
It's,
doing a cover.
Yeah, exactly. It's an homage, a tribute, if you will. I don't
Yes.
even know who sings that song. Do you?
I don't either, but you guys
Don't
are
look it
great.
up. Don't look it up.
You guys are great, whoever you are.
All right, September 9th. Here we're going. We got a plane story. September 9th, 1992, Venezuela. An air traffic controller working in an air traffic control tower. He sees an unknown aircraft on his radar. Doesn't know what it is. Doesn't have the the proper. It's not a train or plane that's supposed to be landing there that day. So he gets kind of spooked. Starts trying to contact the airplane. There's no response at first. Finally, he gets through to the airplane, and he's surprised that it's an American pilot because he's in Venezuela, who claims that they're Pan America Flight 914 from LaGuardia Airport, headed towards Miami, which is 2,000 kilometers away. So the pilot's confused. Why? He's talking to a Venezuelan air traffic controller. The air traffic controller's trying to figure out what's going on. They're trying to figure out how did this plane get 2,000 kilometers away from its destination. Him and the other air traffic control people, they're trying to figure out what route the plane could have even possibly taken. It's kind of impossible. It doesn't make any sense. And then they're still in contact with the airplane pilot, and they can hear on the intercom there's some commotion going on in the plane, and somebody says, "Oh no, we're going again." And then as they're watching the radar blips, and they can see the plane too, as they're watching, the plane disappears.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, and I left out one other thing too. The pilot, because he was getting close to the other airplanes in the airport, the pilot was actually confused by the airplanes he was seeing and the air traffic control tower. He was confused that it looked all futuristic to him. It didn't make any sense, So, the air traffic control person from Venezuela, he gets on the phone or tries to track down where this flight could have come from. He phones LaGuardia Airport. They say they had no record of Flight 914 leaving that day. They had no Flight 914. But they did have a record. They dug up an old record. Now, remember, this story is taking place in 1992. They had an old record of a Flight 914 that had disappeared. It had taken off in 1955. So,
wow.
40 years earlier. Yeah. So, and then there's some stories. So, that was basically all the official things that happened. And then people started coming up with stories. Some people said that the plane actually reappeared and landed in Miami. Some people think that the plane landed in Miami and then in 1991, and then all of the passengers were taken by the government, so they wouldn't be able to tell the story, and that it was covered up. But there's no actual proof of that. That's just some stories that got out. So it could have happened. We don't actually know. Some people, theorize that they could still be stuck in a time loop. Maybe they're looping, between the time periods. So much like the train story, here's the thing. This airplane could still end up somewhere back in the future, or maybe we'll uncover some kind of history of it being in the past, landing somewhere, and these people don't know where they are. Kind of makes me wonder, actually, and I know we haven't touched on this on this show, even though it's a paranormal show. Ancient aliens. You know how they show all these ancient civilizations? They have people coming from the sky. What if it's just an airplane that gets caught in a time loop, goes way back to ancient times, lands in a pyramid or something
Yeah, it's just one of our regular airplanes.
It's just people from Miami or just from people
it's
from the
hey,
state.
we're going again.
And they would seem like aliens because they wouldn't be speaking ancient Egyptian. They'd be "Ooh, these people are."
I want to know mysteries. Main mystery I have about that show is how does he get his hair like that?
Oh, Ancient Aliens.
Yeah, how does he get his hair like that's a mystery to me. That's an ancient mystery.
Yeah, that's some ancient bedhead.
Yeah. So, do you think that these stories are true? Are they legends?
Well, 100 people, a whole train disappearing, as much as the government would try to hush that up and not have stories about it, like the survivors, like yeah, I remember I read about that train episode, the one that you told the story about. For years, the survivor, or not the survivors, for years, the family of the victims, like the people who disappeared, actually searched for the train.
Yeah.
They were trying to find it. So that's the thing is like there's real people who've lost loved ones.
Okay, so of the two, I'm gonna say the train one is more likely.
Are you saying that like it's more likely to really be a time vortex, whereas an airplane could just be like an
Well, no, it's not that it's not either is possible, but I'm saying of the stories of which one is true, I'm gonna choose the train story over the plane story.
Well, the plane story is down to believing some air traffic controllers, you know. So, because I don't know, I mean, yeah, like they had a record even from LaGuardia Airport of that flight 914 disappearing in 1955. But airplanes do disappear, like that just happens, like you know, without time vortexes, like plane crashes that just nobody finds the wreckage. The ocean's huge, right? Back in the day, they didn't have as good tracking equipment, so yeah, I could see like an airplane just disappearing.
Well, it just seemed more of an urban legend, that story, than the other one.
Okay.
But yeah, we got more time slips for you here. See in my notes, magical notes. So in 2006, a girl, she was driving from North Carolina. She was visiting her sister in North Carolina, and her sister was going to work, so she was following her to the highway. And so somewhere along the way, back to Georgia, something happened, and she ended up on this sort of a split road, and she chose the wrong, like a fork in the road. And she chose the wrong way, and the road kept on getting more, I guess, more gravelly, and she's driving along. She's like, I got to figure out how to get back to the highway. The highway was I-85, and she's like, I got to figure out how to get back. I'm totally lost, and she's all confused at this point. And as she's driving, she comes up to this gas station, and the funny thing about this gas station is everywhere it's kind of sunny and it's a nice day, except for around this gas station. It's dark, clouded over the gas station, and so she's like, well, it's an old brick building and there's some cars there. I can go ask somebody how to get back to the highway. So she goes in, and the man behind the counter, he's talking to somebody, and so she waits for her moment when he stops talking for a second so she can interrupt and ask. And he completely ignores her. And so she happens to be black, and she's in North Carolina, Georgia area, and she's thinking, uh-oh, maybe it's because I'm black, that maybe they're racist or something. And she goes to the next person. She decides to leave him alone. And she goes to the next person inside and does the same thing, and they're just completely ignoring her. And so she's frustrated, so she goes outside, and she sees a bunch of guys in front of their van. And they're all kind of looking down, not paying attention to her, except one guy looks up at her, and he's a bit startled when he looks at her. And he kind of looks away, and she's like, excuse me. And so he looks up, and he's like, he's startled by the fact that this woman is talking to him. And she asks, where's highway I-85? He's like, I live in Georgia, and I have no idea where that highway is. I never heard of it in my life. And so she decides to leave and come back the way she came, and get back on she eventually finds it or whatever. It's 2006. She's got an iPhone or whatever, right? So she figures it out. And she finally gets home to Georgia, and there's 5 hours missing in her time. It's a trip that normally takes 5 hours. This trip took her 9 hours.
It's 4 hours. Isn't that 4 hours missing?
No, it takes her. Sorry, it normally takes her 4 hours to get there, and
Okay.
she lost 5 hours.
Okay. Yeah.
So she,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and she had a weird breakout on her body as well, of acne,
I mean,
and
that
she had
could be
to.
just stress related.
Yeah, it could be, and she had to go to the doctors for that. But it was a pretty strange event.
That is strange. Yeah. And
Uh,
she didn't like try to go back to the place or anything. I guess it's pretty far away.
well,
Did
I
she
think she was.
think that the town maybe like? Yeah, that's interesting. Like, did she
So
ask
the
them to
what I'm
go?
thinking is that they couldn't see her except for that one guy.
Right. Or
Like,
it could have been back in time. Like if she time slipped, maybe the town was in the past, right? And they just thought that she was really weird looking because you look pretty weird in your new clothes, you know.
and if she's partially in the present and partially in the past, maybe
Oh, I
not
see what you
everyone
mean.
could see her.
I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, so she's caught in between two time periods. Maybe only certain people can see her, and that guy was startled the fact that he could see her and the other people couldn't.
That's interesting.
So that is a interesting time slip for sure.
Absolutely. Lost time. That's a common one too. People losing time is pretty common.
Well, that's a whole other show, Lost Time. But this is
That
a
could
bit
be.
combining the two.
I've got one that's a well, I got a short one here just about a soldier in the Philippines. So this is kind of interesting. And this is an old one too, from the late 19th century. So like the late 1800s. The soldier falls asleep. So he's a Philippine soldier, asleep in Manila. That's the capital of the Philippines. He falls asleep there, but wakes up in Mexico City. So across the whole ocean. So while he's sleeping, he travels across the ocean and is completely baffled, doesn't know how he's in Mexico. And the authorities detain him, right? Because they don't know where the soldier came from. So they arrest him and detain him. And he's actually released after being identified because I don't know, mail Manila and find out that, yeah, this guy's a soldier who's supposed to be in Manila right now. And nobody knows how he got to Mexico City. So
What's interesting about that? It's not really a time slip, though, is it?
it's a place.
He's teleporting.
But the thing is he never it wasn't like if he was kidnapped and somebody threw him on a ship, he would wake up at some point and remember all of that, right? So whatever time it took him to get to Mexico City. But you're right. I mean, maybe he just instantly teleported. But that's a whole other
And that's a whole other episode. Like I've heard about people waking up, sleeping in trees and stuff like that.
Right. Now, here's another thing, though, I was just thinking about. So, the Earth is always turning.
How can the Earth turn? It's flat.
turning,
It's flat. Come on.
turning into the future. No, it's actually a
Not
ball.
flat. Don't.
Okay, yeah, we're not going there. Not that kind of show. We're not turning.
Maybe
into that
we
kind of
will explore an episode where we talk about flat Earth.
I'm being sidetracked from being sidetracked, but I just noticed that your name says N semicolon itemd one. Do you notice that? Am I wrong? Am I just tripping out or something? Do you see in your name it says N?
It does not.
No, that's how it looks on my screen. Okay, anyway. Write in on the comments if his name looks wrong. Oh, there, now it's fixed.
What are you talking about? It's fixed.
You just fixed it. It's not the Mac fixing it. We both screwed up our names in the same episode.
Yes.
What I was saying though is the Earth's turning, right? Think about this. So the Earth's turning. Let me just, show you what turning looks like. If you
Because we do not know what turning.
You might not know what turning looks like. This is what turning is.
You're doing an Indian
if
dance.
you time slipped here, if you time slip and then the Earth turned and you showed up like hours later, because the Earth turns, you would also travel, right? If you stayed in the same place in space, but you time slipped, and then you went 10 hours into the future, well, you'd be halfway across the planet.
Well, he's lucky he didn't end up in the water. You wake up in the water.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe people who disappeared, that's what happens to them.
Possibly.
Lots of disappearing people. You got
We
another
did an
story there?
episode missing 411.
We
maybe
did do
that-
that. We did do the Force one. Yes. You got another little story?
No, you can go with the next one about your
All right.
hotel adventure.
So two couples. This is in 1979. Two couples are traveling together. That sounds nice, right?
Yeah.
You got Jeff and Pauline Simpson, and Len and Cynthia Gisby. And
You know what? You know what? Cynthia,
Yeah, Cynthia.
I don't like
Gisby.
her. I don't like her.
Well, she does fart when she gets nervous. So
But also, she's so smug.
yeah, she's smug.
She's
So anyway,
smug.
they're traveling near Montelamar. I think it's in
Oh, Montelamar!
yeah. And so they're looking for a place to stay. They're looking for a place to stay for the night. They go to one motel. It's full. There's no vacancies. So they keep on driving. They drive for a long time. It's starting to get dark. And then they're surprised because they see this old sign for a circus. Like it looks like it's from like it's really, really old. And then they all of a sudden find themselves on a cobblestone street, which is strange because they weren't really in an area that would seem to have cobblestone streets. But finally they find a place to stay, but it's a low stone building. Okay, like an old school inn. They go in, someone's there to greet them and give them a room. The building has no windows. There's no glass at all. Instead, it just has old wooden shutters. There's no pillows. There's no telephones. Everything's very basic. They get a meal of steak, eggs, and beer. But they were really tired and they just wanted to eat and they fell asleep and they didn't think it was that strange, really. I mean, other than the fact that there was no phones, but it is 1979. It's not like there's phones everywhere, right? But they're woken up by a strangely dressed woman. Like it looked to them like she had way too many clothes on. Like one of them said it looked like she was going to go to the ball, but who's going to the ball in the morning, right? So lots of clothes. They go downstairs. They find policemen in uniforms that later, through some research, they were able to figure out were from 1905. So the policemen were wearing really old uniforms. And then when they went to go pay for their bill, which is a night of staying in the hotel, there's 4 of them. They ate steak, beer, and eggs. Steak, beer, and eggs. And their whole bill was only 19 francs, which comes to 2 euros. So they were like, this is insane. This is so cheap. This place is insane. How could they be so cheap? So they drive away. They do the rest of their vacation. On their way home, they try to find that place.
Well, so obviously you got a good deal.
Yeah, you got such a good deal, but they couldn't find it anywhere. The place was completely gone. They couldn't even find the cobblestone street. They couldn't find the circus sign anywhere. So what they think is that they traveled backwards in time to some old inn in the early 1900s or maybe late 1800s or something.
So let's wrestle with that one a bit. Do you know what my whole issue with that whole story is?
Mm-hmm.
Is how are they paying for this with their future money?
Well, money doesn't change that much.
Well, think about it. The money that they have
Would have a different president or queen on it, maybe. Queen Elizabeth's been on the money for a long time. You could go back to
yes, but look at if we handed in some dollar bills 30 years ago, that we got the new 10s and the new 5s.
Oh no,
people would be questioning things.
Well, maybe 1970s money wasn't that different.
Come on, it definitely was. This is a bit of a problem.
But it also seemed like when I was reading this story, I thought, oh, they traveled back to medieval times because there was no glass. But then they said they saw police uniforms from 1905, and I'm like, well, that's not that old. So it almost seemed like their story was they were in some kind of vortex where there was multiple time zones existing at the same time.
You know what? I'm going to say that I think they're calling. I'm going to call this bullshit.
You just have no imagination. What if
I have imagination, but come on.
Imagine
if they had glass in 1905.
Imagine you owned an inn and it sunk into a time vortex, and you started getting guests from all different time periods, and you got a whole bunch of different money all the time. You got money from like 2050, you got money from like 1300, you get gold from like the medieval times, and you're just keeping all this money, and you're like, this is cool, this is working. And then you're not even going to make a big deal about it. You just take whoever's money.
Okay, like our job isn't to just say yes to everything. We got to wrestle with this. I think the story is
wow.
They have pillows in 1905. Pillows were around.
Maybe I'm the baby face wrestling with the paranormal, and you're the heel, and you just want to.
Or maybe you're the naive one, and this time believing crap when it's a total. Maybe you just want to believe what you want to believe.
You just don't like Cynthia. I know what this is about.
Cynthia didn't like a liar. She's a cheat.
Stories.
And she's trying to feed us a bunch of crap, and I'm not buying it.
What if a couple of your friends went on vacation and they came back and they had this story? Well, how would you react?
I'd say, was Cynthia there? And they said yes. I'd be like, this is full of crap.
Cynthia, if you want to be a guest in the show, just send us an email. I'll get you on the show. We can hash this out. I know that your story was from 1979, so you're probably dead still.
And if you are a beautiful girl named Cynthia,
if Cynthia Gisby's estate wants to get in touch with us, go ahead.
And if you're a beautiful girl named Cynthia, still get in touch with us. I'll take you out for coffee.
I bet you with a little bit of work, I could get you a full apology from the Enlightened One and a free t-shirt of your choice from WrestlingTees.com. ProWrestlingTees.com.
You're going to buy it or I'm going to buy it?
All right, you got another story? Where are we going here?
All right, so this one's interesting. So this is in 1966 in Liverpool, England. So Frank, he wanted to go to HMV. Do you know what HMV stands for?
You've lost all our younger viewers. They have no idea what you're talking
about. HMV is a music store.
Wow.
Do you know what HMV stands for?
What? You mean, but music's free on the internet. Why would I go to a store?
You are not that young. You have gray hair.
I know what HMV is.
His master's voice, it stands for.
No, it's Hear Music Video.
No. Anyways, so
his master's voice. What are you talking about?
Anyways.
You're the one time story.
On to the story. Okay. So Frank was in Liverpool and he wanted to get himself a CD at HMV. And so he's walking along. And as he's walking, he steps into what he calls an oasis of quietness. And everything kind of stands still. And it's just, and he's kind of a little bit in a trance. And all of a sudden, a 1950 small box van speeds by and almost hits him. And he's like, and he realizes that he is standing in the middle of the road. And he quickly gets back on the sidewalk and he looks over where Dylan's books used to be. I guess it's a place he was frequent with. And he looks up and it's now called Cripps. And it's a ladies' shoe store. And he's looking all around and everyone seems to be from the 50s. And he's looking all around and he sees one girl who is wearing modern clothing. And he kind of is drawn to her because it's his attachment to where he's from. Mm-hmm. And so she sees the store too, and she goes in, and he follows her in there. And as soon as they get in there, it switches back to a bookstore. And she goes to leave, and he grabs her arm and says, excuse me. Did you come in here because it was a lady's shoe store and bags and stuff like that? She goes, yeah, I came in here to check it out, and now it changed to a bookstore. And so they're both kind of weirded out. And as you went outside, everything was back to the 1996.
Interesting.
So I found that one of the more interesting things, where it was kind of a mixed reality where these two were the only ones affected by it.
So the two people time slipped together.
Yes, not knowing each other.
Did they get married after?
I don't think so. But that would be a good movie too, right? A romantic sci-fi comedy.
That'd be crazy.
Time keeps on
slipping.
Slipping.
Okay, how come you didn't believe my stories, even though my stories had like a whole room full of air traffic controllers and like, you know, like your story had two people? Come on. Even my couple story had four people.
Don't take this personal. Don't take this personal.
Don't you think though that the more people involved in a paranormal activity, the more believable it is? Because
Yeah,
right? Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, I got one with three young boys experience a time slip.
There's not a priest or anything in this, is there?
There's no priest in the story. I don't think so.
Good. We just got okay. We're good. We're good.
Not that kind of show.
Okay.
1957.
And if you're a priest, I apologize.
Yeah, we're just joking around here. 1957. Three boys from Scotland. You got William Lang, Michael Crowley, and Ray Baker. It's a good group of boys right there.
Reminds me of that movie, Stand By Me.
It's a little bit like Stand By Me. So for some reason, it didn't explain in the story I was reading, but they're doing a map making exercise, maybe for
a what?
Map making. They're trying to make a map. Yeah, so they're out trying to make a map, and they're walking around Scotland, and they're looking for this town called Kersey. So they're going to where the town's supposed to be, and there was supposed to be a big church with a big bell tower, and they were supposed to be able to see the bell tower from like far away. And they keep walking and they can't see it, but then all of a sudden they do see a town, but it looks really old, and there's no church tower. The buildings look really run down, and the windows are all smudged and everything. And they're thinking this can't really be the town. There was no people in the town, which they thought was really weird. There was just a bunch of buildings that looked deserted almost. So the boys go up to one of the bigger buildings, and they kind of unsmudge the window, and they look inside the window, and there's a whole bunch of cow carcasses in the window. The building's just full of dead cows. So they get freaked out. They're like, why is there dead cows in this building? This doesn't make any sense. This doesn't seem like the right town. They think they're in the wrong place. And they just like go back the way they came. And then they don't find the town that they were looking for. So then years later, one of the boys doesn't believe it really happened anymore. I think it was Ray Baker. He kind of thinks like, nothing happened. We just like found the wrong town. But William Lang gets really fascinated with time slip stories. He hears about other time slips. And this is in the future when he's a grown man. He starts to think about that time when they were walking around.
And do they come across Pennywise at any point?
So he starts doing research, and he finds out that Kersey, he started looking into the history of Kersey, the town they were looking for. The town of Kersey actually used to have a butcher shop, okay, up until 1790. But then it stopped having a butcher shop. So it hadn't had a butcher shop for almost 200 years, okay? Because the modern day Kersey doesn't have a butcher shop, so there's no reason there'd be dead carcass, like cow carcasses in one of the buildings. Also, the church tower also wasn't built until like the 1800s or something. So that would also make sense as to why they couldn't see the church tower, because it wasn't being built yet. So he's starting to think that they time slipped to sometime in the 1700s. And then he starts doing more research because he's thinking, why weren't there any people in the town? Why did it seem deserted? And he finds out that that town actually got hit with the Black Plague in 1420s really badly. So, and a lot of people died.
Wow.
And there was reports that like so many people died that the town seemed deserted during the Black Plague. So now they're thinking, oh, smokes, he went back that far, right? He even gets interviewed for Andrew Mackenzie's book Adventures in Time, which is a whole book about time slips. So you can look that up if you're interested.
See, this one seems more credible. I'm buying this one.
Well, I think it was interesting that he got so fascinated with something that happened to him when he was a kid. He starts doing research about it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem so far fetched, and there's no. Well, the problem is there's no links to make you question it. There's nothing in like. Wait a second, like with the hotel.
Well, he even thought if there was 1420s, would there have been glass on the windows? But he actually did more research. And before the Black Plague hit the town had actually gotten a lot of wealth in one of the trades. What was it? Wool trade. So they'd actually gotten a lot of money from the wool trade, and they actually could afford windows on their buildings because
unlike the people in 1905.
See, he had all the details. Like he figured it out. He's like, oh yeah, they actually did have windows. So.
Yeah, incredible story.
I don't know. It's pretty cool how you like researched all this, and like that would be weird to think like, man, I have time slipped when I was a kid. Do you have any real life time slips in your life?
No, but I got one more story.
All right, let's hear it.
So in 1971, a pickup truck with Carl, Mark, and Gordon. They went up to get some feeder. They went up to this property, and so they're going to go get some feeder, and the tank was empty where they went to go get it, and so they wanted to go look for the guy who was in charge of filling up the tank. And as they were going around, they saw this big white house, like a mansion. And they were perplexed because they'd been to this property many times to get feed and to get all the different things and supplies. And this house was never there. And so they were really thrown off by seeing this house. And so they eventually got the guy to fill up the feeder and get their stuff, and they decided that they were going to come back in the middle of the night and check out this house because they were really thrown off. They brought shotguns, and so they came on the property in the middle of the night, and their flashlights, and they got past to where that house was going to be, and there was nothing there.
Wow.
The foundation was gone even. It was grass, and somehow they had a time slip where the house, I don't know if it's the house or it's them that went back. Did they go back or did the house go forward?
But they had gone to that property before they saw the house, and the house wasn't there.
Yeah. So that's why they were so intrigued by the house being there, because it was never there before.
You know, it would be interesting is if they kept tabs on that area if somebody builds a White House in the future.
That's also a possibility, but I think it was an old-looking house, so I think it was.
Yeah, it could have come from the past.
Yeah, so it possibly was from the past. So the question is, did they travel back in time, or is the past traveling into the future?
Right. Is there even a difference there if you think about it? Like, you're thinking of two entities, people, and then the place, like the Earth. But like, if the people travel, from their perspective, it's like the Earth changed. But if the Earth traveled to them, it's the same type of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, right?
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Because they don't seem like they're going anywhere. They seem like they're staying where they are, and the Earth is changing.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting perspective. But if we go back to the train is going into that tunnel and going somewhere. Because
it doesn't come out the other side.
Yeah, so it's going somewhere.
Yeah, it disappears and ends up somewhere else. The train one's interesting because it's like it disappears in 1911, shows up as a ghost, like people can see the image of the train, but it's kind of a ghost because it can go through things. And that happens in the future. But then it and then the monks see it in the past, but then it ends up in Mexico for real because the people are obviously real because they get put.
Did they get this idea for Back to the Future 3 from the time slips?
Back to the Future 3 probably got their idea.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
I got one last one. Have you ever heard of this before? There was this lady who she needed a new house, and she kept dreaming. She had these really vivid dreams of walking through the perfect house that would just be like where the rooms were where she wanted them to be. The walls were beautiful colors, everything she wanted. And she kept dreaming for months about walking through this house. And then she was looking for houses, and she was traveling all across the States looking for different houses and different areas to live in. And she finally approached this house that looked exactly like the house from her dreams. She knocks on the door. It wasn't actually for sale, but she's like, this looks like my house. This looks like the house I've been dreaming about. She knocks on the door, and the person opens the door, and she can see inside. Like, she can see the hallway. She's like, oh my God, this is exactly like the house I've been dreaming about. And when the person opens the door, they freak out and scream when they see the lady. And she's like, whoa, why are you screaming? Like, I don't even know you. And the people are like, you're the ghost that's been haunting this house every night for the last few months.
That's an interesting take because it's another weird temporal sort of thing. It's not really a time slip, but it's similar to the other guy.
But it's like people seeing somebody who's time slipping. She's not really time slipping. She's just placement slipping.
Well, it's like maybe she was astral traveling.
Mm.
We talked about that on an earlier show.
Astral projecting, yeah.
Yeah, maybe she was so vivid in her dreams that she's going to this place.
Yeah. And her spirit just wanted to find the perfect house so much that it found it and went there. It kept going there.
And what drew her to this house in her dreams?
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
Yeah, like what drew her to this house? That's a mind blower right there.
Could you imagine too, like there's a ghost in your house and the ghost is just like looking at your walls and being like, oh my God, these colors are perfect.
Yeah, look at you just
I love the drapes. I love the drapes.
My goodness. Perfect. I like what you've done with
just like
my goodness. It's like a ghost that's queer eye for the straight guy, just talking about I wonder, oh, this is so nice. Oh man. Yeah, it would have to be a gay ghost to really make it funny.
Well, I'm out of stories. I don't know about you.
I think that's it. This is an interesting thing to wrestle with. I think some people have really taken liberties with time slip and they've told their own stories. But I think that they are really happening.
It's a good excuse to use if you're late for work.
Sorry, time slip.
Time slip. I thought it was sometimes I wish I could time slip. Like you're at work and it's like, oh, I got 2 hours still before I'm off.
Oh yeah.
Time slip 2 hours ahead.
Well, the thing is, what I worry about is if you're at work, if you're gonna do the job properly.
While you're time well, what happens while you're time slipping? Are you just gone? Because then they would wonder where you were.
Yeah, like if you're going to fast forward and you're doing it to the best of your ability, everything.
Right, but who's doing it? Is like some zombie version of you?
Well, no, you don't have a zombie. You're doing the best version of yourself, but you're on fast forward motion.
Oh, so you still see everything happening, but it's happening really fast.
Yeah, just.
Well, I mean, that brings up a good point. I'm sure you felt like time is slowed down sometimes. Like if you're doing something really boring and it seems to be lasting forever and you're like, oh my God, this is taking way too long. Like if you watch a pot, right? If you watch a pot trying to boil, it seems like it takes forever, right? But when you're doing something fun, like having a podcast, time just flies. And you're like, what? It's been 49 minutes already? This is crazy.
49 minutes and 25 seconds.
Isn't that, you know what I mean though? Like the perception
I
of time
remember a
changes.
moment when I was a kid. There's this one kid, he was acting up in class. And he got pissed off with the teacher. And he threw his shoe at the teacher. And when that shoe was flying across the room at the teacher, it was going in slow motion. I swear, it's like, and it just seemed like it was slow motion and everything. It still hit the teacher.
And for years now, the Enlightened One is still waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Oh, that is good. So yeah, this has been Time Slips.
Mm-hmm.
Time keeps on
slipping
into the future.
People want to get t-shirts. We got t-shirts. Wrestling with the Paranormal.
We also have a purple version of that.
Yep.
Because that is our color here on the show. It's purple. And so you'll be wearing the gray one most of the time, and I'll be wearing the purple one most of the time. So if you need any of our products at Pro Wrestling Tees /Effin Wrestling, give it a look. And subscribe here on YouTube. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
We're on the journey to 1K subscribers. We're getting there. We're gonna be there one day.
Yeah. So thank you so much to all our subscribers. Hit that bell so you receive every time we're on the air, and like and comment. And thank you so much for watching. And
And remember, keep on wrestling with the paranormal. Woo!